Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Progressive Discussions, post-democratic debate, self-quarantine, coronavirus pandemic show. What better way to spend your self-quarantining than to be enlightened and educated as to the real hard-hitting truth. I'm your host, James P. Madonna. This is my co-host. You know him well, the one and only comrade, Damian Owens. How are you?
Well, I'm doing better now that my 4 12 to 10s are over. And I told the manager, I said, please do not do this again, because by the time I was done with this, it was excruciating because I was tired, I was exhausted, I was in a terrible mood. But now today I've caught up on some sleep and I had some beer last night. All is well and all is back to normal for now.
Yeah, that's a tough shift. 12 to 10 is not easy. That's
exactly
tough. Yeah, that's tough. But anyway, I just want to start off by saying to you people out there, don't get ripped off by buying Purell and commercial national advertised hand sanitizers. I read Consumer Reports. I know I sound like a broken record, but Consumer Reports recommended 4 teaspoons, for those of you that can't count in out there in America, 4 teaspoons in 32 ounces, which is a quart of water, the water of your choice. Don't use Perrier. Or, use cold tap water like I did. Shake it up good, pour it into small spray bottles, 4 teaspoons of bleach. It works great. It smells great. It feels like it's killing stuff. And that's the way to go. It only cost me $2 for a half gallon of ordinary bleach. You ladies out there are probably going to want to get the scented, but no, just get straight bleach. So anyway, okay, we're down to the wire. Bare knuckled John L. Sullivan contest tonight. Joe Biden against Bernie Sanders, 1-on-1. They did not interrupt one another nearly as badly as when you had a whole panel. I think it started with 18 people. I could be wrong, but when you had a lot of people, a lot of candidates in the race, you had a lot of interruptions. So it was, plus you didn't have the jeers and the boos and the cheers because there was no studio audience, which is what everyone is doing now. Everyone. Even professional wrestling, even Stephen Colbert TV shows. Now, I notice before I go into detail. I noticed that when they said goodnight, there was no elbow bumping. There was no goodnight waves between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. I noticed that Bernie Sanders waved to the CNN commentators asking the questions, and he split. Joe Biden stood there to talk to them. Of course he stood there to talk to them, because the post-debate commentary by CNN was like they do every day and night. It was pro-Joe Biden. And I expected that, because they are corporate whores, and they're deathly afraid of the people that sign their paychecks. So, like you see in the scrolling marquee, that tells it all. That summarizes how I feel. And there's possibly a good reason why Bernie Sanders decided to put an egg in his shoe and beat it. And he probably, and there's no pattern. I mean, there's no surprise that Joe Biden stood behind to chew the fat with the CNN crew. Now, I did like the Univision woman, the Hispanic woman, the Latina. The only thing is, when Joe Biden kept on saying, well, how are you going to pay for it? Well, how are you going to pay for it? I was hoping Bernie Sanders would mention, tax the rich, tax the top 2%. They tend to avoid that subject. And I noticed, okay, Joe Biden had said Bernie Sanders wants a revolution. Well, that's not what the country needs. The country needs to, something like to the effect, it needs to solve its problems. It needs to deal with the issues, the problems. It doesn't need a revolution. Well, avoiding a revolution is saying that the moderate centrist Democrats want business as usual in politics. They do not want to remove big money from politics. They want to keep their super PACs, like Bernie Sanders was pointing out to Joe Biden. And Joe Biden sounded humble. Oh, I don't take big money from fat cats, right? In a roundabout way. Yeah, they want business as usual, which is capitalism as usual, which is corporate fascism, corruption, blah, 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 privatize everything, no single payer universal health care, no free public universities, so on and so forth. Keep the private sector in America, keep capitalism in America. And that's the impression I got from tonight's debate and from Joe Biden. But however, I am impressed with Bernie Sanders' vim and vigor and toughness, even though I did not forget the sarcastic dig that Joe Biden made about the fact that he has no pre-existing conditions, even though he is elderly. Get it? When CNN, I think the cunt Dana Bash, was it Dana Bash, that said, well, Bernie Sanders, you had a heart attack, right? You're 78 years old. You had a heart attack. And then Joe Biden had to throw in there, well, I don't have any pre-existing conditions, which meant, oh, he's in better shape. He's still Sleepy Joe when it comes to the energy level of Bernie Sanders. And if Bernie Sanders got really pissed off at him, he wouldn't be able to drown him out. Sleepy Joe really is a Sleepy Joe. He doesn't have the vim, vigor, and energy to do the amount of rallies that Bernie Sanders was doing. So, did you catch Mr. Damian Owens, that little snide remark about him having no pre-existing conditions?
Yeah, I caught it, but I watched it, but in all honesty, I thought the whole debate was pretty doozy, but I'll save all mine until you get everything said that you need to say. Yeah, I caught that remark.
Yeah, business as usual. Yeah, we don't need, he said that more than once, we don't need a revolution. You missed the debate because you were too busy talking about freaking beer with those jabronis, with those palookas in the booze community that only want to talk about fucking beer. I was on a private chat with Thomas Metal 75 and Alex the Beer Master, and I told him about something concerning veggie burgers because he did a show about veggie burgers, and I says, the formula for veggie burgers is very easy to come by, especially if you have a good processor at home, like a Vitamix or a Ninja or something like that. You can make your own. He said nothing. He said nothing. He just went right for the fucking beer. I hate people that are not well-rounded in life, or they could be foodie snobs. They could be, craft beer snobs. He didn't answer me. And yeah, I don't care if he watches this. I'm telling it like it is. What does Ronnie S. say? Confucius say? How would Damien say that fiat money is better for a sound economy than gold? Oh, that's because Ronald J. Theriot said he wanted to personally debate you about the gold-backed currency when they used to have the gold bullion at Fort Knox, and we had a gold-backed currency. And Jay was saying that a gold-backed currency made the U.S. dollar much more secure. But I don't want to get off in that direction. But I had brought up the subject and challenged him about it because on the Fear Mongering Friday show there were quite a bit how should I say extremist right-wing people like Backwoods Willie or Backwoods Billy or Billy Bones Billy or whatever the hell is it. He has Jay's following is predominantly extremist right wing. So that subject came up. So then he says, hey, I want to debate Damien Owens. I'll teach him a thing or two about gold-backed currency. So anyway, James is right. Too much beer talk ain't good. Well, it's good to be well-rounded, Ronnie. Life, we're going through a very critical time in life right now. In America's, the condition, the state of the world, United States is, not just the pandemic, everything, the economy, everything, the corporatism that's going on. Excuse me, politicians that don't want to take big money out of politics. Don't forget, you take big money, you owe big favors. So, yeah, so that's the gist of what I got from the debate, Damien Owens. He doesn't want a revolution. Okay. How the hell are you going to get corruption out of the United States government and the system we have under the capitalism that we have if you don't have a grassroots revolution? They're not just words. A revolution is not going to take the form of peaceful hipster protesting like Barney the dinosaur. I love you and you love me and let's all have a big love-in together. No, it's going to take a hell of a lot more. And Damien knows it and I know it. And I just felt that Bernie should have been more venomous towards Joe Biden. And I noticed that in the entire Democratic debate for 2020, there wasn't enough talk about making the rich pay for it and taking the tax burden completely off of the middle class, like Eisenhower did in the 1950s, when the United States had lots of prosperity. All right. I know this is going to be weird, but usually I'm long-winded with my rant and my monologue, but I said all that I noticed, and it's all yours. The floor is yours, Damien Owens.
Okay, the floor is mine. Awesome. Well, let's see here. I do like the fact that you did pay attention to the debates. I didn't watch it in its entirety. I kind of just, skimmed through it just to kind of catch the highlights. And just from what little I saw, if this is what the 2020 debates are going to be like, regardless of whether Biden or Sanders goes to debate Trump, it's going to be a complete shit show. It's going to be like the situation of, that situation of one's scared, the other one's proud of it, meaning they're both equally scared, and they don't really want to challenge anything per se. Yeah, that's essentially what this is going to be like. And if this is, in all honesty, what the debates are going to be like, and this is now the state of affairs when it comes to political debates, no wonder the American people are going to feel so disenfranchised with anyone who goes into a debate and who says, I'll do what you say if you just go for my vote. That's not going to be just for the presidency. That's going to be for anybody in an elected official position in the U.S. government. So I hate to say it, at this point, I think now Americans are slowly beginning to realize that, the system does not work for us. It used to work for us, but it only worked for us to keep us pacified for a certain amount of time. Now the pacification time is over. The concessions we got at to keep our pacification are over. They want all the concessions that, they gave to us back. And that, in all honesty, now it's time that we get in together and start doing things ourselves. Meaning we're going to have to start organizing, and if that means a full-on revolution, meaning armed rebellion against our own government, against our own people, then so be it. If that's what it takes to get shit done, so fucking be it.
Yeah, but in order to take your gloves off, you have to have proven facts to be able to effectively and intelligently debate someone, and you have to have a lot on your side, not constant lies being spewed day and night and bragging about yourself, how you're a superhero and you're handling everything. Forget about him. I don't know. He wasted his money, Ronnie S. Listen, I never said Ronald J. Theriot is not well-rounded and diversified. I said the other people in the beer community are like robots. They're like beer robots. Yeah, I didn't say, about that. Now, American people, I'm trying to intelligently analyze why Joe Biden won all those states. Now, I know why he won the southern states, because the folks voted for him because of his connection to Barack Obama in the past and the fact that he's riding Barack Obama's coattails. That's why the southern states, most likely the blacks in the South, voted for Joe Biden. What people have to do is say to themselves, am I better off 4 years later than it was 4 years ago with this administration? What did this administration do for me? Is my standard of living and quality of life any better in the 4 years this person's been in office? No, it hasn't been. Well, what do high-paying people in a corporation, since Ronald J. Theriot is pro-corporate and pro-CEO, what do CEOs do when they're a director of a certain department doesn't do his or her job? They get fired or they get demoted in some way. Yes, well, you fire the politician you voted for by voting him out of office. But these Americans today, especially the ones that voted against their best interests, that voted for Joe Biden in the primaries, which might have very well been rigged by the DNC and that scrawny bucktooth weasel Tom Perez, oligarch banging him up the ass, probably. They are dumber than a bag of rocks. The average American in general is dumber than the bag of rocks, and I am very disappointed. Even though people argued with me on Facebook, I'm disappointed that the young voters that all showed up at the Bernie Sanders rally, jumping up and down with the signs, yay, yay. Every time Bernie opened his mouth, yippee. They, when push comes to shove, they don't turn up at the polls. Okay. They like to go there, and because it's the place to be. It's an event like Woodstock or Occupy Wall Street. The kids were all camped out on Wall Street in little tents, blocking the sidewalk, right? It's something going on, like a rock concert. That's why the kids show up and jump up and down. But they're really, the average American today is dumber than a bag of fucking rocks. I'm really convinced of that. What is, Johnny Ringo? He's good. I like Johnny Ringo. Do they make gloves small enough for Trump?
They do.
Yeah.
Guarantee they do.
I've seen little toddler gloves in Toys R Us one time.
No, Toys R Us. You're taking me back to my youth.
They were
Makes me cry every time.
Gloves. I think Donald Trump's hands would fit perfectly in that. You know why? Why do Americans that live paycheck to paycheck or week to week or whatever, or live on a fixed monthly income, why do they shoot themselves in both feet and vote for a pro-corporatist, pro-CEO, pro-corporatist that's against their best interest instead of voting for someone that is for their best interest, like a democratic socialist? There's no logic in it. That's why Americans deserve the super volcano at Yellowstone Park, or as my friend from Boston said, Yellowstone Park. Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. Ronnie S. say, Confucius say, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. The average American is really quite brain cell deficient. I hate to say that. I gotta agree with Ronnie S. on that. They really are. When John F. Kennedy, I was a fan of JFK. He was pretty progressive. When he ran against Tricky Dick, a young Richard Nixon, women said, "Oh, I voted for him because he's much better looking than Richard Nixon. He's handsome." Is that a good enough reason? I talked to a bartender in this Irish pub I used to hang out in because my good buddy was head of security. And it was a sports bar. Any fucking bar with big monitors that shows games is a sports bar. She voted for John McCain because she thought Sarah Palin was cute, his running mate. Let me tell you something. I said to her, Sarah Palin has a lot of space in between her ears. Sarah Palin spent like 150 grand on designer clothes and shoes for her and her fat little slut of a daughter, Bristol Palin. So she voted for John McCain because Sarah Palin was cute. Now you understand where I'm going with this about Americans. They really are fucked up. They really are. He's handsome. I'm voting for him. Oh, his running mate is cute. I think Sarah Palin's cute. Sarah Palin and what's her name? Shit. Hold on. It'll come to me. The bank's already got a bailout. Damn right. Yeah, Wall Street bailout. They could barely make it a week living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, and I did want to brush upon that because with this recent coronavirus outbreak, we really begin to see just how irrational capitalism really is. Its solution to this problem, just throw money at it. Like, instead of, throwing money at research, it's just like, oh, we're just going to throw money at this problem and let's see if it's just going to resolve itself. Like, oh, let's just bail out the banks. Let's just make sure capitalism is fine and fuck everything else. That's essentially what capitalism is doing. In fact, they're lining the bourgeoisie's pockets with money. And actually, in fact, capitalism's not even really caring about any particular class at this point. All it really cares about is, just as long as the dollar is being served and money is being made, fuck the health of everyone, even the particular class that serves it best.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just good God, when people say that, that's bullshit, this is so terrible. I can't even call this bullshit. This is horseshit, is what this is.
It is horseshit. It's really not rocket science to figure it out. I mean, it's a question of what has this politician, governor, mayor, president done for me? Is my life really any better now that it's 4 years later? How is my standard of living? Is the cost of living any lower? Are my taxes any lower since I'm, if you're middle class or lower middle class, are my taxes any lower? These are very important questions, and they're not complicated.
Yeah.
Yes. The one of the most brain cell deficient Republican females who ever lived, Michelle Bachmann. I was trying to remember her name.
Yeah, Michelle Bachmann.
Minnesota. A real what she was one of those like evangelical zealots, one of those religious freaks.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? What? Hold on. Wait. Well, let's go back. Tricky Dick should have won, but Americans like the Camelot shit of JFK. He was a great progressive. Okay, now Ronnie S says Damien is 100% wrong. 100% wrong. Gee willikers.
Yeah, gee willikers. Now let's see here. Let's see what old Johnny Ringo has to say. Inflation is the most regressive tax, and with an additional 1.5 trillion circulating, we will see higher prices soon. Yes, that is a very basic economy lesson because it is a regressive tax. Now, if you don't know anything about inflation, basically it makes the rise of everything, or it makes everything go up. Now, there is a way you can stave off inflation to a certain extent, but there's no way you can 100% get rid of inflation. It's going to happen every single year, no matter what. Now, there are pretty much two ways you can stave off inflation. And under capitalism, really, if you want to kind of stave off inflation, you're going to have to decrease the money supply because, supply, demand, that has a determination in terms of, value. And then also, you either pay people more money or you make what money they're already making have more buying power. That's pretty much the only way you can stave off inflation. Now, the fact they flooded the market with $1.5 trillion, unless they somehow decrease the money supply to where it's new bills to replace older bills, yeah, that is going to cause inflation to where it's going to be like, I'm not going to say it's going to be to the point to where it's like, after post Germany World War One, to where like they were hauling off wheelbarrows of German marks just to buy a loaf of bread to where, essentially it was worthless. Is it going to be to that point? No, but the dollar is definitely going to decrease more in value for that. But let's see here. They are throwing money at Fed-induced crony capitalism. That's not free market capitalism. It's not. I'm sorry, but capitalism is capitalism. No matter whether it's free market, crony, it's all still capitalism. At this point, you're basically just straw man argument and just splitting hairs. I'm sorry, you're not going to win that.
Yeah, capitalism has inherent evils about it, and greed is one of them. I trust big government a lot more than I would trust any scumbag corporate CEO. And why do people that are not financially independent put their faith in CEOs is beyond me. I have no idea why. It's like saying Oh, I like to go on a picnic, but I really like to do it in crocodile infested waters, because I like crocodiles, and I like the thrill of doing it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Capitalism is capitalism, and it never changed. I mean, but it's a good thing that there are some Republicans that were progressive. Teddy Roosevelt, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Other than that, they don't like unions. Obviously, they don't like unions because they want to pay you chump change, chicken feed wages with no benefits. They want to bring back slavery. They want to bring back the days in the Middle Ages, imperialism, feudalism. Where you're like, oh, you can't hunt in the king's forest. You can't. Oh, you shot a deer in the king's forest. That belongs to the king. That deer doesn't belong to you. That's what they want. That's fascism. Like, you see, I wish people go to Merriam-Webster's online dictionary and please study your political definitions, because there's too much of a word salad going on where people are throwing all these political labels at people without first understanding the definition of every one of them. And they all have a different definition, and they just don't do it. Okay, all right. In debate, prove that you're not it's not a straw man argument.
Okay, so how is it a straw man argument? I'm going to go ahead and just say why it is a straw man argument, because basically he's trying to make the distinction of, oh, this does something a little bit different, therefore it is not all equally the same. I mean, for example, I'm trying to think of an excellent example. So this is something I hear from a lot of right wingers, and even some left wingers, and even some moderates to a certain extent. They just want to, say, oh, it's just the greed of a few people, or oh, it's just this problem or that problem. There's nothing inherently wrong with the system. We just get this aspect taken care of or gotten rid of, fixed, what have you. It's going to somehow fix the entire system. I'm sorry, no, that's not how that works. Even if you were to get rid of the Wall Street class, or get rid of Wall Street, or get rid of finance capital, at the end of the day, unless there's a full-blown revolution and the proletariat takes control of the means of production as well as the state, and it's a proletariat-owned state where everything is done for and by the proletariat, it's going to be capitalism. As long as profit is still being made and the profit motive is still there, it's still capitalism. That is not going to change a damn thing.
First, no, Ronald J. Theriot said that he might be up at this hour. Then he told me he will not be up at this hour. So he backed off of appearing via video. Now, he did say that when I was saying derogatory things Friday about the fossil fuel industry, about them having the ability to pay off a lot of politicians, like the insurance industry, and like Big Pharma, he ran in front of the video camera from where he was, because he was going to get something. He ran and said, "Oh, I know, I'm all for the fossil fuel industry, but the Green New Deal sounds good, but I'm for fossil fuel. I'm for oil, the Middle Eastern oil, and the United States occupying these countries." And him and his following started talking about, like it was a good thing to occupy Middle Eastern countries to get their oil. American oil, drill, like when Sarah Palin was saying, drill, drill, drill. I'm saying, why are you so loyal to the fossil fuel industry, since the only positive reason is that maybe right-wing people are pro-greed and they would like to be multi-billionaires that don't pay any taxes, that, that have power and massive amounts of money. Because for a person to be pro-fossil fuel industry and pro-insurance industry and pro-big pharma and all for CEOs, that must mean that they are all for greed. The mega rich that have tax loopholes and can get away with paying their fair share in income taxes or not pay anything at all, like the dildo head Jeff Bezos of Amazon. So you have to be like Sherlock Holmes. You have to really analyze the situation. They say, "Oh, I'm all for corporation. Oh, I like private enterprise. Oh, private enterprise is number one." So then they start talking like Archie Bunker, without any factual, hard evidence to back up their debate. They're just throwing out word salad, or ad hominem attacks, perhaps, or trying to cut you off and drown you out by shouting higher than you.
Mm-hmm.
Why is a man who's a retired school teacher and middle class pro corporate CEO, pro fossil fuel industry? Why?
Because he bought into capitalism's deception. I mean,
Right, exactly.
let's not underestimate the power of capitalism, because capitalism has been a predominant system as a means of production for quite some time now. And in its infancy stage, it was able to, lure people in because, it offered a higher standard of living as compared to what they had prior under feudalism. But in reality, the only thing that really changed was the means of production were taken out of the hands of the monarchy and were placed into the hands of the mercantile class, the merchants, which would be considered the early bourgeoisie class. And when capitalism became the predominant mode of production throughout the world, it didn't just happen overnight. Essentially, it overthrew feudalism by force. It was basically one class system overthrowing another. That has always been the case throughout history. It did the same thing whenever, early man was primitive hunter gatherer, and then it became, the first organized states. And then we had the ancient society, and then the medieval society. And now that it's capitalism, yeah, you get what I'm saying. Every time there's been a change in history, it has always been through violence. It has always been one class overthrowing another by means of revolution.
Well, look at the Industrial Revolution with J.P. Morgan. He screwed all his rich buddies over during that time. Carnegie, Cornelius Vanderbilt, so on and so forth. He actually was underhanded at taking them over. That's the nature of capitalism. You're greedy. You hang out with your greedy multi-billionaire friends, and then you start to stab your rich friends in the back, because now you're power hungry and now you want more and more and more. All right, what is he saying now? Communism. Well, that's totalitarian. That's not true Marxism. That was like a corrupted totalitarian, like military dictatorship.
No, I hear this argument all the time. He has made his position abundantly clear, especially with anarchism. A state enforces its power, therefore that equals either authoritarianism or totalitarianism. Well, a state is just the force or the right hand of the particular class that's in power. Down with status. Oh, Ronnie, I hate to say it, fuck off with your right-wing bullshit. Just stop. You're not going to win this debate. You're not getting anywhere, so just stop it. And in all honesty, communism didn't kill millions of people. the fact that they want to say that, oh, Stalin killed 10 million people, Mao Zedong killed 100 million people. You could do plenty of research on the internet and show that it's just simply not true. There are official records that completely debunk and completely disprove all of these claims. And if you want to do the research yourself, fine. But if you just want to continue to believe the lie, fine. But at the end of the day, you're still wrong. Stalin didn't kill 10 million people. During this particular time when there was 10 million dead, was kulaks and landlords were hoarding grain while people were starving because of an unnatural weather pattern. The collectivization still happened. They went in, took the grain so that people didn't starve to death, and overthrew the kulaks and the landlords and said, no, you're not going to do this. And that is evil and wrong. How? It's not. And then during the Mao Zedong Great Leap Forward, okay, how could 100 million people die when under Maoist China the population doubled? It went from 476 million to 976 million. So I guess doubling your population means killing 100 million people. I mean, granted, I went to school here in America, but the math just simply does not add up. I'm sorry, it does not.
No, well, it's I really it's arrogant American exceptionalism, and I bet they honestly think that almost 1,000 American military bases around the world are a good thing, and in reality, it's just occupation to steal their natural resources, in most cases, oil.
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to fossil fuel. So, and the most amazing thing is that these right wingers that are pro corporate CEO and pro private enterprise and against social services and helping the poor, and they're all for hoarding wealth. These are the same people that claim to be real Christians, like they have a backbone to God.
Religious zealotry.
They're not real Christians. They're hypocrites. All zealots are hypocrites, and no one has proven that their God exists. No one has proven that. Okay, he said the Fed and the 16th Amendment are unconstitutional. Stalin would have killed his own mother.
Oh, bullshit. Yeah, complete, total fucking bullshit.
Like Curly and the Stooges used to sing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead and just go ahead and nip this in the bud right now. When Stalin had his, oh yeah, sorry. When Stalin had his,
yeah, I'm sorry. Get a beverage.
oh, well, I don't have to get anything. I got my water right here.
Oh, okay. Oh, you said something about a bud. I thought you.
No, I said I'm going to nip it in the bud.
Oh,
meaning, I'm going to go ahead and just nip it in the bud.
Yeah, let's nip it in the bud because it'll go on forever.
Yeah, the fact that he says that Stalin would have killed his own mother, Stalin had every single right to be paranoid, not because he was an evil dictator that, made people work, and if they didn't work, he made them disappear and was killed. No, he was paranoid for a lot of good reasons, because there were a lot of people trying to undermine him. I mean, if you look back after Lenin passed away until Stalin died, how much progress the Soviet Union actually made. I mean, it basically went from a piss-poor, backward, third world nation to a first world industrious superpower under Joseph Stalin. And in fact, if Stalin would have killed 10 million people, and he was so evil and so hated in the Soviet Union, why do Russians still have great admiration for Joseph Stalin? Why do they have such great admiration for the Soviet Union? And why is there so much nostalgia for the Soviet Union?
And Lenin, and don't they still have statues of Vladimir Lenin?
Yes, and in fact, here recently in Western Germany, which is very ironic, I was reading an article that a court approved the construction of a Lenin statue in Western Germany, which I find very, very ironic. It just goes to show you that, everything we've been fed about socialism and communism is wrong, and people just do not want to accept that reality.
Yeah, well, there's a difference between Karl Marx's, what was it, Communist Manifesto, his initial book. There's a big difference between Karl Marx's writings or teachings and a military dictatorship, totalitarian regime. I mean, either you fought. It's like look. It's like democratic socialism in Scandinavia and Canada. That's where everything is done the right way, the caring way, compassion, empathy. Give the citizens a base salary of, like Norway does, like $800 a month, just to keep their nostrils above water. Be pro planet Earth, not profit before people on the planet. Right way to do capitalism, and then there's the evil way. Well, the same thing with comparing Karl Marx to military dictatorships. But do you think that there is a strong possibility that the oligarch might be, through the DNC, might be trying to rig these Democratic primaries against Bernie Sanders?
Yes, you better believe it. Anytime capitalism has stuck its teeth into anything, it's always corrupted it. Yes, towards the end, socialism and communism in those particular countries, they became very brutal and became very oppressive, but not because it's some sort of inherent flaw with socialism or communism in its ideology, regardless of what. Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Vladimir Lenin, Leon Trotsky, Mao Zedong, or whoever else you want to draw the source from. Basically, the reason why it corrupted it was because of, capitalism just could not stand the fact that, socialism and communism was doing so much better than capitalism. So what did it do? It did what it does best: undermine it and corrupt it. Then what better way to corrupt people's idea that socialism and communism doesn't work than use the very same ideas and then make them for, oppression. And that's essentially what they did, and they did it through social imperialism, and that's why it ultimately collapsed in on itself. But, people bought into that lie, and now people are seeing that it was a lie, that, it was just because it was corrupted, that there's really nothing wrong with the particular ideology itself. So if it can bring down a competing world superpower just because it doesn't like it, then you better believe it would do everything in its power to bring down a particular person that itself does not like Bernie Sanders. Even though I've said multiple times, Bernie Sanders would really ultimately keep the bourgeoisie in power, so that way, in all honesty, their class position is not undermined whatsoever. And in fact, if Bernie Sanders were to be the one to be like, you know what, let's give people universal education, let's give them universal health care, Bernie Sanders would probably find a way to where, the people would still get it, while at the same time the bourgeoisie would still make their money. So, let's see what he says. How the fuck does James come after? Ronnie, just, if you want to act like that, just take your shit somewhere else. I'm sorry. Take your shit somewhere else. You're just going to act like that.
Nationalism, imperialism of the clowns. Okay. You know what? I think it's almost time for you to do the Confederacy Part 2. What do you
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah, just let me take a quick bathroom break and then I'll get into it, because this is one that's definitely going to get under someone's skin, and I know it will, and it should for all the right reasons, because I want to completely dispel this liberal notion of racism, and I'm really going to break down how racism works and why it's not just a white on black thing, that really it can affect all races. And in reality, race is nothing more than just a mere social construct.
Well, I believe there is such a thing as racism towards a race like, let's say, Caucasians. And so,
Hmm.
they like to call it reverse racism and say it doesn't exist. But racism is racism, and capitalism is capitalism. But go get something, do a bathroom, a pit stop, and get something if you want it, refreshing. And I will do a little halftime entertainment.
All
And
right. Well, be right back.
because he had a meltdown. Do you think he had a meltdown?
I don't know, and I really don't care. I mean, if he wants to have that, fine. It's America. It's a free country. Do what you want. But an actual debate, that's not how you win. I'm sorry.
Well, we didn't curse anybody out on this show, except for the establishment and the fat cats. But we didn't we didn't go ballistic. We said we actually we acted like intelligent, normal, mentally stable humanoids.
Exactly.
Pretty much, and so all right, here we go.
All right. Be right back.
Halftime show. I know it's not Shakira and J Lo, but okay. Mr. Johnny Ringo, if you're still listening, you're more than welcome to join future shows via webcam because you sound progressive. I can tell by the things you type that you're a highly intelligent man and you know how the world is operating at the present time and what's going on in this country. The real hard-hitting truth. So you're more than welcome to join us. The invitation is always out there. That's Johnny Ringo. Now, like I said before, I know there's a possibility that they're creating the shortage to price gouge. So make your homemade hand sanitizer, 4 teaspoons of ordinary cheap bleach. It cost me $2 for a half gallon in 32 ounces of cold tap water. Shake it up, shake it down, move it in, move it around. Disco lady. I'm only kidding. Shake it up, pour it into small spray bottles. If you happen to have an empty Purell bottle, you can fill it up with that. And, disinfect the surfaces that you use often and your hands, and it will kill all the above. Okay. Damian Owens. Damian Owens is back.
Mm-hmm.
I sent an invitation after my long dragged out juice harp thing. I sent an invitation to Johnny Ringo if he ever wants to join by way of video, because he sounds like an intelligent progressive. And
Mm-hmm.
it's up to him. The invitation is out there. All right, now I am going to full screen Damian Owens, because he's going to educate you with part 2 of the Confederacy here on Progressive Discussions.
Yes. So, last video, I gave just a brief overview about, the Confederacy. And as many of you all know, I'm a Southerner. It is a part of our history, whether we like it or not. And many of us deal with it in our own particular way. I mean, I'm from Virginia and now live in Tennessee, both states of the former Confederacy. But I did do a little overview of, its economics, how, it was economically backward, how socially it was backward, how it had a completely underdeveloped economic system, instead of based on industry, it was based on agriculture. And even though slavery was a big part of the Confederacy for a variety of different reasons, but there's is a reason why I want to brush on the particular topic of racism, because racism is still very rampant, even up to this very day. So, to give it the accurate historical context, not everyone in the Confederacy was racist. Just like the notion of not everyone in the southern states today is racist. Because in the northern states, yes, there were people that were not racist, but then there were also people in the northern states as well that were considered racist as well. But in the Confederacy, racism took on a little bit of a different role as compared to, how it is today, but there are some little minor changes. But how does it apply to this particular historical context? Well, slaves were looked down upon as if they were inferior. Like, they were an inferior race and were to be subjugated as property. Well, that took on more of a early capitalistic approach, because it turned, an inferior race into a particular commodity. So slaves were looked at in a very high commodity value perspective in the Confederacy. So that's how that particular racism was looked at in terms of the Confederacy terms. Now, fast forward to 2020, and the idea of racism has been expanded upon, and it's taken on a little bit of a different role. So I also did talk about, in the Confederacy that, there were black plantation owners who also owned slaves as well. Even though that kind of contradicts your own racial standard, but, outside of humanity, other species don't look at, other races of humans. They just see, one race, human beings. So nowadays, racism is not just a white on black thing, although the liberal media wants to try to portray it that way. Racism is way more broad and way more complex than that. A lot of racism is still, white on black, but then yet, there is, white versus Hispanic, Donald Trump and his supporters. And then there's also, whites versus Asians, and then, whites versus, other mixed races. And it can be any combination of thereof. And what also could be a real thing is, there could be white versus white racism. Yeah, imagine that. Someone of a particular race is racist towards their own race. That's what racism has become nowadays in 2020. And people just simply do not want to talk about that. Now, although it's not to the extent of, they want to look at other people as property, although that's more of your extreme right wing, your more reactionary aspects, the ones that would like to reinstate slavery and do it under the name of the Confederacy. But that's still just an extreme niche. The type of racism I'm talking about is, what is your more modern day right wing racism? And, dispelling any liberal notions that, oh, it's just, this one thing and that's that. So I will go ahead and also admit this now, and you all can look at me however you want, but I, at one time, used to fly the Confederate flag. Not because I was a racist, but whenever I was young, I flew it because I saw it as a symbol of rebellion, because I was very proud of being a Southerner. That, if push came to shove and we wanted to form our own country again, that, we could have this flag, but we'd have to be a completely different country and a completely different society altogether. We couldn't be like we were in the Civil War. So if you all want to look at me in the same way or in a different way, or, that makes you just want to, scoff your nose up at me, but you know what? It's my past. There's no way of me changing that, but you know what? I've moved on from that. And in fact, many people here in the South have, but still, it's just one of those things that just keeps being brought up. So that's really my spiel on it for this session, is that, it was racist in its regard for, looking at other races, particularly blacks, as, precious commodities. Looking at it not only, they're inferior, but we can buy, sell, and trade this particular race as a commodity. Which, if you still want to look at it, that's still racist, but in a little bit of a different context as compared to modern day. So that's my spiel this week.
Okay, now there is a modern day capitalist form of slavery that the right wing conservatives just love. It's called the prison industrial complex. Just filling up those privatized prisons for free labor, but if you talk to flag waving Republican voters, they would say something like this guy that I know personally said to me. He says, well, they're earning their keep in prison. Earning their keep. No, they're doing more than that. They're using them for free, legalized slave labor. The prison complex is embraced by Republicans. I think Lindsey Graham has some investment in it, from what I understand. But I'm sure there are many others that also have an investment in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that argument. They say, oh, we're paying them a wage, therefore they're not slaves. Okay, I mean, yeah, they've got a point because, back in the days of slavery, slaves were not paid a wage. They were forced to do this labor by virtue of just being a slave. You knew your place and you did as you were told, and if you didn't, you were properly punished for it. What they considered for that proper punishment at the time. So just simply because of the fact that they're being paid a wage does not necessarily mean they're slaves. Now, granted, even though they're making, coins on the hour as compared to dollars on the hour for their slave labor, it's still not right. I mean, granted, I'm all for, if they want to have a job in prison, work for the betterment of themselves to kind of, rehabilitate and reform themselves to get back into society, like, that's what the prison system was supposed to be for, then I'm all for that. But exploiting them while they're in prison, no. I'm sorry, just because you go to prison does not mean you should have your rights and your dignity stripped from you.
Yeah, and what about when the Republicans punish poor people by arresting the homeless for vagrants? Or putting someone in prison for something trivial like possessing the medicinal marijuana plant. so on and so forth. Oh, you're on a park bench. I'm going to arrest you for vagrants. Yeah, but I have nowhere to go. I have no money. I have and then the right wing flag wavers will say, well, you're supposed to be working. Go get a job. Yeah, go get a job, you lazy bum. Yeah, but the job market sucks. I can't find one. Oh, you're arrested for vagrants, and there you go. You have more privatized prison, legalized labor. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got a very valid point, but then yet you also have to understand the great hypocrisy of a lot of American capitalism, and particularly capitalism in general. See, as long as profit can be made, capitalism is going to stick its teeth in it. And, despite what people want to think, the reason why drugs are illegal is not necessarily because, they want to consider them, bad, or, they're bad for the health of the individual, and that, they're bad for public health. All of that is true. The only reason why it's illegal is because a certain faction of the ruling elite are not making money off of it. So basically, if they can make money off of it, they're going to make it legal. They can't make money off of it, they're going to make it illegal. But then yet, here's the contradiction. Despite the fact that it's illegal, the opposite side of the law, which, we can kind of call them, I give them the nickname of the counter bourgeoisie or the anti bourgeoisie, keeping in the proper context. But there's still, a capitalist class, but they're just on the opposite side of the law. So just because they're making money while other people are not necessarily wanting to make money off of it, that's the only reason why it's illegal. But I guarantee you, if they were to ever legalize drugs, you better believe, the bourgeoisie on this side of the law, not the anti-bourgeoisie or the counter-bourgeoisie, they will make so much money off of it. And honestly, when has really an individual's health or public health really been a primary concern for whether something should be made legal or illegal?
No, they'll use Monsanto's genetically modified marijuana.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, drugs, they're not going away. They are harmful to individuals and also society overall, but at the end of the day, they're not going away. So
the opium dens of China, right? Of the Orient.
Mm-hmm. So we have two choices. We either A, keep the status quo while the gangs and cartels still have control over the drugs. And we saw exactly what the fuck happened with that, and we are still seeing it today. The war on drugs, trillions of dollars spent with nothing to show for, nothing but just a bunch of dead bodies on both sides. Or, we go back to having no regulation on drugs, or we legalize drugs and we run the risk of what it was like, way back when we had a huge drug epidemic, where we had a bunch of alcoholics, a bunch of cocaine addicts, a bunch of morphine addicts, a bunch of heroin addicts. Where do we come up with the solution so, we don't have a repeat of history?
Yeah, well, a Mexican woman said something pretty clever to me. She says, Americans complain about the war on drugs situation, but who is the number one primary consumer of the drug? She says it's middle class and rich young people, the children of higher income people in the United States are the primary customers for the drugs sold on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, so it kind of made a lot of sense. What she was trying to say is, if people boycott something, that's the best way to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Boycott it.
Yeah, exactly. And even if they were to legalize all drugs, I'm going to tell you tomorrow, all drugs are legal. the most I ever really would do is, yes, I'd still drink my beer, my wine, my liquor, and I'd smoke marijuana. All others, I really have no interest in.
Yeah. Gee, remember when SUVs first became the craze, and they were astronomically priced because of this excuse to rip people off called supply and demand. Uh,
Hmm.
all people had to do was boycott and say, "What? $30,000 for an SUV? Nah, that's okay. I'll pass. I won't buy it."
Yeah.
People bought them. The same thing with paying astronomical rents. In San Francisco and San Diego, a 2-bedroom apartment is $2,500 a month. Well, the jackasses are paying it. Don't go there. Don't move there. That's all. It's as simple as that. Live somewhere.
Yeah.
Live somewhere else. Okay, now it's almost time for the most unique part, the most unique experiment to progressive discussions.
Oh, yeah.
The
I
first,
know what you're talking about.
the first State of the Union tarot card reading.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, um, by the way, I was eating a pack of Pop Tarts. Alex, if you're watching, yeah, I'm showing you some love, Alex. Cookies and cream off-brand Pop Tarts.
Cookies and cream. Now, at least you're not giving me an analytical description of Fungian. I can't even say the word.
Funyuns. I like Funyuns.
I can't say it. Anyway,
Yeah, you just say fun yuns.
Fung Youngs.
No, just fun and yuns.
Fun Youngs.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, all right. It's almost like saying the Italian word for go fuck yourself, fangul. There's actually a costume store over here called Fun, Fun, Ghoul, Ghoul. Fun, Ghoul. It's a costume store.
Oh boy.
Play on words. So, all right. Well,
okay.
I guess the only logical way to do it is as you're shuffling, you focus on the United States of America as it is now.
Yes, that's essentially how we're going to have to do this. So, let's see here. Well, shit, this is going to be a little tricky. So let's see here. How can I prop my tablet up while still at the same time finding something to place the tarot cards on?
You might have a problem showing the layout of the cards, but you won't have a problem bringing every card to the camera. Like last time.
Okay, so I figured out how I'm going to do this. All right, so what I'm going to have to do is, I'm going to draw each card individually. And then I'm going to place them off to the side. And I'm going to find a way so I can have a little table off to the side or do something with that. So I'm going to shuffle the cards and to kind of see where I want to go with this. I'm just going to do I'm going to do a basic 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a past, I'm going to do a present, and I'm going to do a future. No, I'm going to do a 4. Past, present, future, outcome. So that way we can at least get a base reading to where, we can look back on this to where, to see if things are the same or if there's any differences. That way at least we got something to work with. So yeah, that's what we'll do. And I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the cards. And let's see what cards show up. Now, when it comes to the tarot, I have no way of knowing what is going to be showing up. Any card can show up at any moment. So, basically, a card has about a 1 in... I actually did the math of this. It has about a 1 out of a 92,000 chance of it showing up again in a different position or the same position, what have you. So let's see here.
Yeah, because this is the debut of this, folks out there. that have been viewing our shows. This is the debut of the State of the Union, United States of America Tarot reading by Damian Owens. I just want to say, if you look under the video in the description, feel free to click like to our page, which is New Age Mysticism and Healing. And that's what this reading is connected to, that page. So support the page. Go there, check it out. There's a lot of great stuff on there. If you like heavy metal rock, there's plenty of it there. And these shows are not scripted. They're unrehearsed. It's totally ad lib. So if somebody comes on and has a meltdown, we have no control over that.
Exactly. Yeah, we're looking at you, Mr. Ronnie. All right, so let's see.
Usually the right wing. Remember, before the meltdown, I was talking about how flag waving right wing people that usually don't have a pot to piss in, or sometimes they do, and they always end up shouting at you or using ad hominem attacks. They don't debate logically and scientifically with proven facts. They never do. It always ends up the same way, and they toss these words at you. Hey, commie, pinko, all this crap. They just throw a bunch of words, and every time I tell them to look up the definitions in a dictionary, they never do. So,
yeah, if it involves using a little thing called using the brain to do a little thinking, yeah, that's going to be a negative Ghost Rider for that. So I've got the cards shuffled here. So
like that old song, "Insane to the Membrane." Insane to
exactly, insane in the membrane.
Insane to the brain. Okay, there he is. Damien. Yes. And now we begin.
All right, so let's see what we got for the first card, for the past. Okay, so yes, this makes a lot of sense. So the first card we get is the moon. Now, the moon is card number 18 out of 22 in the major arcana. So anytime the moon shows up, it's a lot of instability or a lot of unclarity, where things are not really clear, and they're just kind of in the unknown at this particular point. Which makes a lot of sense because, there's so much stuff going on here in the US, with Donald Trump, being who he is, and now with Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden basically just being a bunch of numbskulls, and then, just the American people just doing what they do best, which is not really doing much, or if they are doing something, it's usually not good. So yes, that makes a lot of sense for why the moon card shows up. So let's see here about our present.
Yeah, isn't that also a card of deceit? Deceitful people in your life?
Yeah. A lot of times there could be deceit, but it's primarily just things are not clear. Things are a lot of there's not a lot of clarity. There's a lot of unknowns, and there could just be outright deception because it's being veiled by the darkness of the moon. Okay. So yeah, that's one of the shadow aspects of the moon card. And this is definitely not looking good. We got the Tower card. This reading shows, if this card shows up in a reading, we're in for some serious shit. Because you can tell just by looking on the Tower card, it's not a very appealing looking card. It's very destructive in its nature. So right now, America is being very destructive, not only domestically, but internationally as well. Now, does this mean it's going to be the collapse of our society? Possibly, maybe. I mean, if things keep going in the direction that it's in, I'd say America would collapse in the next 5, maybe 10 years at most. So, yes, definitely a lot of destructiveness from us, not only domestically but internationally. So let's see what we got for the future. Well, this is a sign of hope, but I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. We have the Ace of Cups. So, um, with an ace, it's always a new beginning. And then with cups, it's associated with water, and it's also associated with emotions. So, out of all this chaos and disorder and this destructiveness, there is going to be a new emotional field. Now, whether it's a good or a bad, we'll see with the next card, but at least it shows that something is going to happen. Now, whether it's for good or for bad, let's see. Americans are very emotional right now, and there's a lot of high emotions, but yeah, just as I thought. We have the Eight of Wands. So the next little bit is definitely going to be very emotional based, and there's going to be a lot of emotions running high, and it could lead to those emotional conflicts spilling out into something worse. Because if this remains unchecked, which according to this card it shows that it potentially could, we're not going to be in a very good situation for the next little bit. People are going to be very emotional for a variety of different reasons, and it's probably going to go left unchecked. So, my interpretation from reading all this, although it's very unclear, something good is not on the horizon. Now, what it is exactly, I don't know, but at least now we know what we can work with. It's definitely going to be very emotional based because of what's going on. And I don't think really it's going to be fixed. So we'll see what happens in the next reading.
Yes, that was definitely a very powerful, unique new addition to progressive discussions. And that was the debut of the State of the Nation tarot card reading by Damian Owens. Great job. And it's just something that popped in my head. It was an idea, the State of the Nation tarot card reading. And it's something good to promote your skills at what you do. It's a continuation of the lessons you gave about the major and minor arcana that was done in its entirety. It's an extension. It's a continuation. But so it's been a very unique, very powerful show, to say the least. The show I did Friday with Michael Hilton was very different. It was red pill, male rights activists, dating, relationships, but it was powerful. It was heavy, but it was different. This is very unique. This was a very special show, and it's historic because it is the first time we have combined progressive politics with mysticism, and as well as watching a flag-waving right-winger go ballistic and have a meltdown and spaz out on us, and is probably going to go back and tell the gun-ho staunch flag-waving conservative all about how he was razzle-dazzled and picked on. But no, he'll say picked on, but it really razzle-dazzled. And
by the Damien.
The Damien did the moonwalk, forwards, backwards, sideways, diagonally, all over his cranium.
Yeah. And I mean, I hate to say it, not to veer too far off topic, but I mean, if this is what it would be like, potentially debating Ronald Terrio or whoever it is that want me to debate about the gold standard on the dollar, if this is what to expect, I'm kind of hesitant to even have a debate because is it really going to be a debate or is it just going to be just an idiocracy?
Well, maybe if it gets to the point where they're just going to have these little tantrums and say, "Hey, you're un-American. Hey, you commie pinko. Yeah, you're un-American. It's not American." If they're gonna be like that, then
Oh, yeah.
it's best to just for us to just talk and not show his comment unless he starts to make sense and comes up with some solid, concrete evidence. And then when Johnny Ringo shows up with intelligent, progressive comments, of course, we're going to show Johnny Ringo's, unless Johnny Ringo decides to come aboard our socialist pirate ship. He's more than welcome. But I don't want to waste time with people that take tantrums, and resort to fuck off, saying fuck off and name calling. He must have gotten riled up by a lot of heavy duty, hard hitting truth.
Possibly.
Yeah, I could tell it accelerated as you were laying the smackdown on him. It was accelerating, but
yeah.
So anyway, on a lighter note, anything new with your food reviews or craft beer reviewing?
Yeah, there have been some developments. So, I told you whenever we had that video chat the other night, whenever I had a local pizza place called Mellow Mushroom, and I tried one of their craft beers they had gotten in. They rotate a lot of craft beer, so whenever we go there, I try to get some because they're always bringing something in that's different. Well, there was one in particular they brought in. It was called Monday. I think it was Monday night fistful of German chocolate cake imperial stout. It was 9% alcohol and 45 IBUs.
You told me about that, and I go, wow, that sounds great. That sounds really interesting. It sounds like a holiday stout that you would find during December.
Yeah, it was a very good stout. I rated it overall a 98 out of 100. It could have had a little bit more bitterness to it because for an imperial stout, it was pretty sweet. Now, if it was like a regular stout on the sweet side, I can understand, but an imperial stout usually is not sweet. Usually, it has the maltiness from the dark chocolate malt, and then you have your coffee notes, and it does have some perceived bitterness from the charring of roasting the malt, but there was too much malt added in, and I think maybe they actually put like real chocolate in to kind of give it that German chocolate cake feel. Well, when you add in things like chocolate, if it's not like a dark chocolate, it's going to make it sweeter and it's not going to complement the bitterness. Well, it was 45 IBU, so it had some hot bitterness to balance it out, but it just was not all that bitter. It was there, but it was more of a perceived bitterness, if that makes any sense. And then, it had some breadiness. There's a little wheat, little rye. The body and mouthfeel were definitely heavy. There was a little undertaste of alcohol at 9%, but it was very smooth. Like some of these high alcohol beers, they mask the alcohol a bit too well. And you could just kind of guzzle it on down before you know it. It hits you like a ton of bricks. This one kind of gave you a little warning, like, warning, warning, don't drink me too fast. I have 9% alcohol in me.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what we have on Friday, what we do is because Mike Hilton wants to watch the Bill Maher show. Watches Bill Maher. It's over at 11 Eastern time because he's in San Francisco. So after that, we do red pill talk for about a half hour. So at 11:30, he starts doing some beer reviews. Now, I don't know what time you have to be at work on Saturday. I don't know if you're in bed early on a Friday night, but from 11:30 Eastern, then it's all beer review, chatter, banter, boisterous beer banter. Now, if you don't feel like going to bed early and you want to join and do beer talk, you're more than welcome. I mean, depending on what time you gotta hit the hay, for work.
Well, this week it's I'm closing all this week, but I'm working 3 to 10 Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so I get to sleep in. I can go to bed a little later as compared to usual, as long as I'm in bed by 4:30 and I'm up by like 1:30 or 2. I could definitely swing something like that.
Oh no, I don't want to do the show. No, I'll pass out. I don't want to do the show till sunrise. I just want to, you figure after we do our rant, red pill ranting, and then about 11:30 or slightly after we start, Mike Hilton usually has West Coast craft beers like he did Friday. He did Sierra Nevada 40 IPA, which supposedly has cannabis extract in it. 40. It's a black and orange label. I don't know.
Yeah.
40 anniversary at Sierra Nevada, and then he did a pilsner called Pollinating Pills. It's an image of a hummingbird facing a flower. Called Pollinating Pills.
That sounds good, actually.
Yeah, and he gave them both good ratings. A pilsner is like a light beer, pretty much, right?
Well, it's like a lighter beer. Although a lot of American beers are like Czech style pilsners, or they could be just light lagers. So I mean, they're going to taste like just regular old beer, but they're going to be light bodied, crisp, clean, refreshing. It's more a beer that if you've been pulling a long day at work and you just want to sit down and have beer to just drink and not necessarily do speculative beer drinking on, they fit the bill just fine.
Okay, but it's they have some interesting craft beers on the West Coast, particularly the Northwest. Well, California. California, Oregon, Washington. They have tons of craft beers there. So he has that. It kind of looked like Eric Fraunfelter's New England IPA. It was very orangey looking, like it had mango, has that mango juice look to it. IPA, and it looked very similar to the New England beer. But anyway, whatever you happen to have, I'll send you the link at 11:30, and you come aboard. You guys do your beer reviews. If you got noodle soup you want to talk about, or you got a pork rinds you want to talk about, or whatever, it's just reviewing.
Yep. And this week, I ventured to the dark side of beer reviewing. I drank a beer that took me back to my youth, and I used to sneak, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, this beer a lot when I was a kid. When I was about 14 to 16, I used to sneak this beer, and I'm very familiar with the way it tastes, but I did regular old Budweiser.
Oh, you mean like as in regular standard Budweiser? What was it, a lager?
Yeah, regular Budweiser red. And I can honestly tell you this right now. I believe the theory behind it that Anheuser-Busch InBev has watered down their beers throughout the years to try to cut corners and cut costs. Now this is one way that I can honestly say this is not being conspiratorial, but I can honestly tell they watered down regular Budweiser to cut corners and cut costs. Because I cracked open a tall boy. I got a great deal on a 3-pack of 25-ounce cans, the really tall boy cans. And I poured it, and it gave a very thick white head, had a nice golden color. That's to be expected. But when I took that first taste, I was like, man, this does not taste like the way it used to. Because back, like I say, even like 5-10 years ago, you knew you were drinking a beer when you were drinking a Budweiser. It had sweetness, it had breadiness, it had flinty white riciness, it had a good hot bitterness to it, and it also had a great beer aroma to it. And the body was, light to medium. When I took that first sip, that's not how it tasted.
Well, when I used to, as a kid, when I used to watch the Budweiser commercials with the Clydesdales and their song, King of Beer's song that they played, they used to mention Beechwood aged.
Oh yeah, Beechwood aging. Yeah. So about that, so the reason why they do Beechwood aging is the theory is it's a neutral wood, meaning it has no aroma to it, so therefore it shouldn't alter the flavor in any way. Well, I have worked with actual beechwood and, have felt the texture of it and even smelled it. To be honest, it kind of smells like polished verdant rice. It's very faint, but it actually does have a little bit of a riciness to it. But not to be long-winded about it, I took that first sip, I was like, man, this just is not what it used to be. It still has the Budweiser flavor, but it's just watered down. It still had more flavor than Bud Light, but you could just definitely tell it's been watered down. It's just not what it used to be.
Yeah, that's usually, unfortunately, that's usually the story when a family-owned business makes it big and gets established, and then all of a sudden they start cutting corners, and a bigger corporation buys them out, so on and so forth, and more corners are cut. It's a shame. That's why I always respect family-owned businesses that have been around for a long time. I know the Smithfield company, which is it Virginia based or North Carolina based? Smithfield.
Which one?
Smithfield. Like is in Smithfield hams. I heard.
I'm drawing a blank.
I heard that this big Chinese company is trying to buy them out because they want to learn quality control in processed meats. I don't know, man. Are they ready for quality control in processed meats? Are they going to do it? The Smithfield family, and I think it's still family owned. If they're going to do that, it should be under Smithfield supervision to make sure that the quality of the meats are maintained. And you don't have any funny stuff in there. No patéed roadkill or any exotic undesirable byproducts thrown to the what do they call it, the hopper that grinds up things.
I've never worked in a meat processing plant, but I have worked with like different meats. I've worked with like cutting them and things like that. So that I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I think the first commercially sold Virginia ham, which is a salted, cured, similar to the Italian prosciutto.
Ooh.
The actual not the Virginia ham that delis and supermarkets call Virginia ham, which is like a sort of like a smoked or honey glazed or spiral, type of ham. It's cured. where they take a pork butt, I think, and they hang it
Mm-hmm.
up. They heavily salt it. That's how
Mm-hmm.
prosciutto is made, and it's aged and slowly dried under a certain temperature, not too warm, not too cold, and you know, a sort of mold, or it actually the salt draws the moisture out of the meat, and
Mm-hmm.
it cures just by using a heavy salt rub. They give it a good salt rub and they hang it up, and it has to do with the temperature that is maintained, and that's how uh, not only prosciutto in Italy, but there's a expensive version in Spain that is made the same way. And Virginia ham, most likely, the science behind real Virginia ham probably came from Europe, and that's what it is. It's cured under a certain temperature, heavy salt rub, draws the moisture out, and now you're going to see article. I think I posted a couple on the food group about
Mm-hmm.
aging meat before you put it on the grill or barbecue. You know,
Yeah.
letting it dry age in the refrigerator for, I don't know if it's a day, 2 days, or whatever it takes. They say that there's a certain positive effect that takes place when you dry age meats like beef,
Mm-hmm.
particularly beef. So, and I think they do that to Black Angus in steakhouses. A slab of Black Angus is aged, and there's a mold that grows over it, and it's dry aged. And then when they cut it, you know, it's got the marbling, which people don't understand. Without marbling, you won't have a tender steak.
Mm-hmm.
You know, fat is not only flavor, but fat is also tenderizer too. So you got to have the marbling, and yeah, certified Black Angus ribeye. That's what I was watching on the video. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, dry aging is what they do. They then the Virginia ham, because it's easier to say than, you know, prosciutto, but you know, it's the same thing. When you slice into it, it's dark like salami. It's a
Mm-hmm.
it's a deep red, almost like a burgundy red color, and you can eat it because it's cured. You can eat it as is. It's very expensive, and it's actually quite a delicacy.
It is.
I'm trying to think. Well, the Italians usually take prosciutto sliced and roll it around fresh mozzarella balls.
Mm.
They serve it
Ooh.
around as a wrap. They take the prosciutto ham and they just wrap it around fresh mozzarella balls, and they put toothpicks in it so it doesn't fall off. And
Ooh.
it's usually one of my favorite appetizers at wedding receptions that I've been invited to. When I see that, that is quite good. It's kind of like eating stuffed mushroom caps with crab meat.
Oh yeah. You know what that would pair very well with? If you put like some Alfredo sauce or like a little marinara sauce over it. Oh man, that would be delicious. But yeah, I tried prosciutto, and it really reminded me of really like stringy salt pork. So I was thinking to myself, you know what would really work well with this? If you made some green beans and you wanted to put some fat back in them, or if you made some baked beans with like some diced onions, or you put maybe some other various spices, and you put this in, it would actually go very well, especially made like some barbecued baked beans or like
Yeah.
maple honey baked beans, or maybe even like a molasses type baked beans. It would go pretty well with that.
Well, you know what else they wrap prosciutto around? Cantaloupe. I've had it wrapped around ripened sweet cantaloupe melon. Uh,
Hmm.
I have to look up. There's a I don't know if it's Smithfield, but there's a company in Virginia that is very old and family owned that cures the original Virginia ham But what people have to do is, like with salted codfish, you have to soak it to get the excess salt out. Don't water, put fresh water in, do it for a few days. Yeah, you have to do it for a few days. Where the prosciutto, you don't have to soak it to get the salt out. But Virginia ham is actually like one of the delicacies of the South.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, real Virginia ham, not the one that Boar's Head makes. And well, I have nothing against smoked ham. I mean, I'll take any kind of smoked ham, especially when you get down to the center bone and you leave a lot of smoked ham on the bone, and then you use that to make, like, let's say, pea soup. You can make pea soup or lentil soup with it. When the weather's warm, when the weather's cool, it's great with split pea soup, or because you have that flavor. And then you have usually, decent amount of meat around the bone. That's what my sister used to do anytime we were given a spiral ham that came with the bone in the middle. She saved the bone, and I says, listen, if you're either going to make soup with that, put it in the freezer, make soup out of it, or I'm going to chew on that thing, because there's a lot of good meat around that center bone. And but anyway, it was a blockbuster show. It's definitely deserves an award, and but I'm tired. I'm tired. I want to go relax, and maybe I'll see you on Alpha Males.
You will.
Which you people out there can join, because the link is right below the video. It's all self-explanatory, like everything we do. Self-explanatory, and it's recorded, so you can watch, listen, learn, get entertained, look at the tarot card reading over and over again. And anyway, take care. I'll see you later on the Alpha Male.
All right.